Moldova, the first event that I attended was at a distribution center. That was a very, very interesting experience because as soon as we arrived, we see the long line of Ukrainian families, often looking very tired and sometimes discouraged. And when they saw the clowns, what happens in a drought when there's the first rain, suddenly wildflowers begin to bloom, in this case smiles on their faces. It was quite remarkable, the instant change. The interactions were so simple. It could be something like standing in front of a child and blowing some soap bubbles and then handing them the bubble maker. There's something about the bubble, its delicateness, its floatingness. It allowed the children to focus, to settle, to see something beautiful in a very simple, everyday way. They had their little toy instruments that they both played badly and beautifully all at the same time. And it's that combination of making the mistake and being clumsy and then everything coming out all right that is so magical, because in clown world, if you get something wrong, that's okay because you get a laugh. And if you get something right, it seems like a miracle. There's the short-term impact of just getting a break. Like in the afternoon, we went to this community center where the clowns were teaching a group of refugee children how to do clowning. So they were learning how to juggle, they were learning how to improvise, they were learning how to play off of each other. In the first couple of minutes, the kids aren't sure what's happening. And it's unusual, it's strange, and they're just trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And then there's that moment, and it's usually a pratfall or somebody doing something wrong, that suddenly they give themselves permission to laugh. And when it happens, it's like this bubbling brook of water. It's this wonderful relief of a child's laughter. And the most wonderful image also is the mothers who begin to cry because they haven't seen their children laugh for weeks. And that's remarkable. There was a moment where the clowns were teaching a young girl how to spin a plate, on a stick. And that was a perfect example where this kid who was anxious and nervous and maybe even a little bored suddenly was focusing on something in the present moment, just spinning that plate. And it was a difficult thing to do, but within a few minutes she could do it. And it wasn't just performing for the children, it was teaching them how to focus, how to maintain balance in a chaotic situation. And I asked the organizer of the local NGO, Moldovans for Peace, if their experience was the kids were in need of these kinds of activities. And she said to me, it's not the kids that are in need, it's the mothers. They need the kids to be occupied for a few hours. They're the ones who really appreciate it. I mean, she was half joking, of course, but the children themselves, again, in an exercise where they were playing statues, where they would move around and then have to freeze, and then pay attention to someone else before they could move again. That focus of attention, that focus of energy, that connecting to other people is something that is invaluable in a situation that they find themselves in. WHO as an organization, first of all, we know that when people are displaced, they become in great danger of losing their physical health. They don't have access to health care, they're exposed to disease, they're exposed to conditions that could be harmful from a physical health point of view. But also, the mental health strains of being displaced are equally important. And the social upheaval that happens is also a health issue. one of the things that I've seen in my time at WHO over the last 20 years is a growing realization of the importance of the social determinants of health. That if you want to deal with health, it's not about just developing a vaccine. It's about addressing the social issues that created the unhealthy situation in the first place. War is a social determinant of health. WHO, by definition, is against war because it is the opposite of health. And creates a negative cycle of ill health. It's not a political situation at all from our perspective. The clowns are not there for therapy. That should be left to the professionals. But when you look at the WHO definition of mental health, it's not about the absence of symptoms or diagnoses or diseases. The definition of mental health is asking yourself the question, can you cope with the everyday stresses of life? Can you practice an ability to its highest personal level? Can you be productive? Can you participate or form a community? Can you find moments of joy? And if that's the definition of mental health, well, then that's what clowns do. I mean, that's it. That's it.